If I get too hot later. The content of this meeting is being sent to a third party.
Yeah, to YouTube. That's our third party. It's getting there. It's almost there.
No worries. I was just reading you what I had.
Hey, we are on live, and I'm going to click record.
Okay.
All right, we're live. We're a few minutes late, but it's 12:11. It's a beautiful number, at least in my corner of the world, 3:11 in Maria's corner of the world. Welcome, everyone. We are on episode 17. I cannot believe that we have come this far, but we're
I
having
love
fun.
it. I love it.
Welcome to the party, whether you're catching us live or on replay. I'm Julie Sherwood, your Best Hopes Wellness Coaching, and I bring a mind, body, spirit approach to your wellness using astrological, constellational information, solution-focused oriented wellness coaching, which we're going to talk a little bit about solution-focused approaches to things, and root cause therapy method, where we can take a look at what's at the root of things that lock you up and open up your energy so you can actually live your blueprint. And I'm joined by my lovely diva of the dailies, Ms. Maria. Tell everybody about yourself.
I am Maria Schumacher. I am a 13 sign constellational astrologer. I am a practicing witch, and I bring a Wiccan, an esoteric and spiritual focused bent to holistic wellness. Um, I have a website, venus-13.com, where you can learn more about my esoteric and astrology offerings. I write a daily I
Work with
write it because
trust.
I can't speak. I write a daily astrology blog that gets posted on Radical Astrology and Cosmic Reflections. And I have a Patreon page that is Maria's Daily Charts.
Yes.
Woohoo! So that's my online presence for everybody. So
Yay. And if you really want to know what's going on in the sky on a daily basis, there's your girl.
I
She
write
is.
it, yep, every day. Well,
Yep.
just about every day. I think I've hit like what, 359 of 365 days last year.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. And you know what? Sometimes those of us that got your back will help you out. So there's always
Every,
one of us around that can help you see what's going on in the sky. So
every once in a while, my day blows up, but usually it's right there.
follow this lady. If you're not on Facebook, go to her Patreon, become a subscribing member. It's worth every cent. So, yes, I'm going to pitch my friend because I think it's valuable. Anyway,
Thank you.
so what are we going to talk about today? Do we have anything going on that might be of interest in the next few days? I don't know. It's kind
No,
of quiet,
not really. I
nothing.
mean, yeah, I was gonna go to McDonald's for dinner or something. Yeah.
Fire, fire, pants on fire. Yeah, the coffee was good this morning. Just saying.
Little there's some stuff happening.
Yes.
So
Yes.
there is going to be a new moon on the tooth on 10/2. A new moon in Virgo. Yes, Virgo. No, really Virgo.
Yes.
So we won't belabor that too much because most of our audience is already familiar with live sky astrology. So the actual moon and sun are actually in the stars of Virgo, actually.
Yep. Yep. And as you pull it up,
And
and for those who may not be super familiar with true sidereal or constellational astrology, as Maria said, it's a look up in the sky.
that's
Go get
it.
an app,
Right.
Skyview, Stellarium. There's some freebie ones out there. And if you don't believe us, on October 2nd, go out and point your little phone to the sky, and it will show you that it is in the constellation of Virgo.
Exactly.
Tropical is a holographic overlay that aligns to the seasons, and it's got its place, but we
Mhm.
ascribe to using the cosmic energy of the sky. So,
Mhm.
pray tell, my friend, what are we looking at?
We are looking at the moment the sun conjoins the moon, or the moon conjoins the sun, more technically. Um, it will be high in the sky. Like as you can see, we're going to be pretty much in the middle of the sky. So when the sun is high in the sky, it is conjoining the moon. It is an eclipse point. How can I tell? Because it is very close to the south node of the moon, which is the eclipse point of the moon's journey where it meets the sun's path. Those are what the nodes are. When the path of the sun orbiting the Earth coincides with the path of the sun as observed from Earth.
Right.
Right. That's an eclipse.
So it's an orbital crossing path. It's not an
Yes.
actual celestial body for people who may not be familiar with the lunar node
Yeah.
path. And they're always 180 degrees apart because of the nature of the way the ellipse or the orbits cross each other. They cross at 2 points at all times.
Hmm.
And I've kind of annotated where the north node and the south node are.
Yeah.
Okay, keep
So
going.
that is why it is an eclipse, because it is close to those. It will not be a total eclipse because it's not right exactly conjunct that south node.
Right.
But
Because you can
there
see the
will
numbers
be,
here.
yeah,
See the
exactly.
numbers?
Hmm.
Yeah, that tells for people who are looking at the chart, 13 degrees Virgo is where the south node is, and 17 degrees Virgo is where the sun and moon conjoin each other, so they're 4 degrees apart. If they had all been 17 or all 13, then it would have been a total eclipse.
Hmm. Right.
Okay?
So not a total eclipse from our point of view, partial eclipse, but still enough that it's going to pack a wallop. We're going to see a shadowing, we're going to see a marked shadowing, and we're going to get eclipse effects, right?
Mm-hmm.
Which are usually a turning point.
Yep.
There's a mighty closing of one cycle and a mighty opening of something else, right? There's a shifting. Eclipses always mark a turning point, especially those that are seen.
Yep.
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 If they're seen, they're felt, and they're marked. This one not only has the sun and the moon at 17 degrees, it also has Mercury, and it also has Lilith black moon, which isn't a point, right? Which also isn't a physical body. Lilith black moon is the moon's perigee point, farthest away from Earth. It's at its farthest point from Earth in its orbit. So, what's that mean? Why is that important?
Pray tell.
Yeah, why is that super big deal and important? Lilith Black Moon, the moon's perigee point, stands as a reflection of everything in ourselves that we reject, right? It is what we have been taught to reject, what we have been taught to revile, right? What we have a hard time accepting. It is also the things which we are trying to integrate. It's also where we demand our sovereignty be returned, right? Because that was part of Lilith's deal, is that she didn't, again, there's a reason why these planets were named that. So she was rejected, outcast, and reviled because she demanded co-equality and sovereignty.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And I think the interesting factor of this is the fact that Black Moon Lilith and the South Node are operating together in this eclipse, right? And South Node is leaving behind what we've brought forward either karmically through past lives, if you believe that, or in your soul's entrance to this world, or generationally, ancestrally, whatever it is that's behind you. And we need that. We need what's behind us to move into the direction we are here to achieve, which is represented by the North Node. Now, mind you,
Exactly.
this is a
Yeah.
collective energy, by the way, because this is transits. For those who may not understand this, in your natal chart, you have a static blueprint marker of the nodal path that is specific to you. But we experience the collective nodal path the transit nodal path as a collective, right?
Yes.
And
Yes.
so, as a collective, Black Moon Lilith is asking us to look at what we are willing to let go of in the South Node energy of Virgo.
Indeed. One of the saying, my favorite saying about Lilith is that Lilith always knows what isn't working for her.
Yes.
Always knows what isn't working for her. And so, yes, here at the South Node, she's going to encourage us to know what hasn't worked for us too. This is the stuff that we need to now leave behind. I know you're comfortable with it. I know you've come to accept it in your life, but it's not working for you.
Mm-hmm.
Being out, yeah, yeah.
And I was going to say, and that is a marker of the South Node. When the path of the North Node becomes a challenge or difficult, we tend to revert to what's familiar and safe
Mhm.
because it's familiar, right? Even if we know it's not good for us, it's
It's the
still
devil you
familiar.
know. Yeah, the literal devil you know.
Yes, exactly,
Mhm.
exactly. So, what are we going to do with this new moon energy? And we talk in terms of energy potentials, right? We all
Yep.
have a choice. Do you leave behind what you should leave behind, or you choose to hold on to it? The energy is there for you to do it, but what choice do you make? How do you exercise that free will? And so we
Mhm.
want to talk in terms of energy potentials and how we can look towards solutions in working in that flow of energy. So,
Well, speaking of solutions, Julie, we've got Mars in Gemini square to this bunch. What's that do for our energy potentials?
well, squares first off, for those who may not know, and I'm because this is right up my alley, solution focused wellness coach. I tend not to look at challenging aspects as hard or,
Yep.
ooh, those are awful. Look at all those squares or quincunxes. Yeah, they can be challenges, but how do we rise up to meet the challenge to go and flow with it? Do you keep hitting the kayak against the rock, or do you find a way to go around it? Or do you
Yeah.
find a way to flow in a different direction, maybe?
Yeah.
So, Mars, he's the action oriented planet. He wants us to take action. He wants us to move forward. He's got that momentum. And Gemini's all about finding out the information, go get the data, talk to people about it, listen to each other. How are you letting go of this South Node stuff? What are you doing? Tuning into our broadcast, right? This is a way to have Mars energy. It's you're taking some action to get information,
Mhm.
to learn about how to meet the challenge that this eclipse brings us.
That's right. That's right. Mars wants that. So that square, that challenge, and sometimes we need that square energy as a push. It,
Yes.
it can be exactly that you're feeling angry about something. Finally, when you get to the point where you're so pissed off you can't take it anymore, is exactly what you need to get you moving.
Yep.
So it can be highly, highly, highly beneficial. Right. It just doesn't feel easy. Trines tend to feel easier and squares tend to feel angrier, but we still benefit from them.
Right. Right. And there's oftentimes when we do rise to meet that challenge that the square is asking us to take a look at. Oftentimes when you look in the rear view mirror when that square has released, there's a beautiful lesson in it. And I know a lot of people are like, oh God, I'm tired of life lessons. Aren't we done yet? No, you're not. The day you're done is the day you're no longer in this body, right? So it's a matter of, okay, how did I use that Mars Gemini energy to really harness what this eclipse is asking us to let go of and move into?
Right. Right. So, one of the things that I feel strongly that this eclipse is asking us to let go of, right, is other people controlling our physical body, right? I think that because Lilith, the sort of avatar of personal sovereignty, has entered the stars of Virgo, which has to do with the physical body and the health of the physical body.
Mhm.
That's a pretty strong signal that one thing we're asked to look at are the areas in which we have given up control of our body and how do we take it back.
Mhm.
And I know that this sounds like I'm going right to, women's issues.
This is
And
for
yes, and yes, that is part of it. Um, but I'm also thinking of generally when people get cancer,
everyone.
if they get a cancer diagnosis, suddenly they're in the system, they're in the healthcare system, and they're, asked to give up control of their bodies. Um, some women in other countries are being forced to literally cover themselves and remain silent in public. That's control of their body. That they're not even necessarily giving up, but it's these kind of things. There's multiple levels to that.
Yep.
That's more of a holistic, you know, spirit crushing thing, but that's coming through with a physical man, the physical body, the physical covering, putting down of of women. And there are places that that happens to men as well. You know, when a lot of men enter the military, they're given up complete control of everything. You know, you no longer have the right to determine how long you take a shower. So yeah, there are things like that that we want to look at. Where have we given up control, sovereign control of our bodies,
Oh, yeah.
and how can we get it back?
Well, and I think the part of the answer is right here. And I'll tell you why. So first off, I'm a Virgo ascending, so I, ascribe to all of the energy of Virgo. Everything's got to be improved and fixed and organized and discerned about
Refined and
all
yeah.
of this stuff, but and your routine and your health, all of that. I also come from 15 years of medical education and program administration, so I've seen the system from the inside, right? And where I think we, without getting on a preachy soapbox, which is hard for me because I have a lot of Gemini in my chart, but where we look at this is going back to the holistic approach and not just laying back and saying, okay, these experts are the experts and I'm just going to, follow everything they tell us. And why do I say that this North Node Chiron in Pisces is part of the key? Chiron, the key, is we need to tap into that intuitive mind, body, spirit connection. It's not just if you get that cancer diagnosis or some sort of lifelong illness diagnosis, rather than just laying back and let somebody tell you what to do, can you go inside yourself and really intuit, is there another thing here that I'm not hearing from the intuitive perspective? Can I collectively look to heal through the intuitive eyes of the collective? Do we listen to the drumbeat of our ancestors in terms of how they navigated these things? And it's time to, Black Moon Lilith, South Node, really question those systems. Not to throw them all out, there's a place for them. But by the same token, you are the expert first.
Right. And in places where, even like I am not a trained medical professional, right?
Neither am I,
So
disclaimer.
that's right. So for me to say I know better than a doctor is ignorant to a certain extent. On the other hand, I am still the one who has control of my body.
Right.
How often do we even get second or third opinions on things? That by itself can be empowering. It's like, okay, I've just gotten a major diagnosis from one doctor. How often do we question it? How often do we say, all right, I'm going to consult a different kind of medical professional now?
Yes.
Or I'm going to actually do my own research. Like, okay, I may not have been trained in medicine, but I can still read.
And consult, like you said, other modalities. Talk to other people in the
That's right.
system of holistic health happy hours is what we're here to talk about.
Yes.
Not to throw it all out, and say allopathic medicine in our healthcare system is horrible. It's not. It's got its benefits. Yes, and
Yes.
that's where the Mars comes in. Do go out there and take some action in educating yourself.
Yep. Yep. Yep.
Ask the questions, you
Yeah.
know.
Like, okay, I have a cancer diagnosis. This is what my allopathic doctor says I should do. What would a nutritionist say I should do?
Right.
What would an acupuncturist say
Right.
I should
Energy
do?
medicine, any
You
of it.
bet. You bet.
And I think the other thing, and you and I didn't talk about this, but something that's clicking in my head here is this little thing right here, where we've got Venus in the last degrees of Virgo. And I think before she
Thank
leaves her
you.
stars, what do we value in our Virgoan energy? What do we value about our daily routine, our personal health? How can we look to ourselves in terms of a relationship with ourselves to understand how to improve our connection to the Virgoan stars?
And do we value ourselves enough to
Yes.
take control back, to take responsibility for ourselves? Because that can be another thing that sometimes we're happy to cede control to others
Right.
because then we can pretend we're not responsible.
Yes. Yes. Exactly.
Sadly, and now I've used the word pretend, so let's look across at Neptune.
Okay.
Okay?
And for those
So
who may not know, here's our little friend Neptune hanging out in retrograde in the home stars of Pisces. Pray tell me,
very
friend, what does that mean?
pretty close to that north node. I mean, there's not an orb of conjunction there, but it's in the vicinity. You know, we talked about Chiron, so let's talk about Neptune too. That the
Go.
places where we sort of pretend that we're not responsible. Okay.
Yeah,
We are.
disconnect.
Yeah. And so Neptune in retrograde might have a little bit to do with our looking at that. She's connected to this whole process by virtue of Ceres over there. See how Mars has a square from the eclipse over to Chiron. Ceres has a square from the eclipse down to Neptune.
Yes.
So there's that challenge to um, have a look at yourself, have a look at where you've maybe been deluding yourself or laboring under an illusion, where
Mm-hmm.
you've bought into an unreality. It also can encourage you to expand your mind and expand your consciousness, right? Because the I think the highest iteration of Neptune in Pisces is that expanded unconscious. The world of possibility is there for us. And as the North Node approaches Neptune, we're going to get more and more and more of that. The entire world of unconscious, subconscious, cosmic possibility is going to be easier and easier for us to access.
Mm-hmm.
But we have to have our wits about us, which is why, thank God, it's opposite Virgo, right?
Well, and you know what? Retrograde helps with that, right? This is a
Yeah,
time to reflect on how your Neptunian energy comes through in terms of, do I
yeah,
escape? Do I hide? Do I just ignore? Or am I really using that intuitive energy where I go, I'm not going to completely give up my personal responsibility to make personal self decisions,
yeah.
and I'm going to trust my instincts when I go, I don't know about that, or yeah, that sounds really good. And then
Yes.
do the Mars and Gemini, seeking of the knowledge to figure out, is my intuition on? Does that
Bingo.
work best for me? You
Mhm.
know, and you've got this Jupiter in Taurus. How do you expand into what you value? Taurus is again ruled by, we're not ruled, we're not using that word. Venus is,
Connected. Uh-huh.
is happy in Taurus. She's the one that kind of oversees the stars of Taurus. So again, expanding into what you personally value. Taurus is the self value, self worth, intrinsic stuff. And also your extrinsic resources. Expand into what makes sense to you and use that intuition to get there. Don't just
Yes.
let everybody else tell you that that's what you need. You need to eat 7 servings of this every day to be healthy. Well, maybe I don't, expand your
Yeah. That's exactly it. Somebody tell me I need to eat 7 servings of broccoli every day, then apparently I'm going to not be healthy because that ain't happening. Right?
How do you feel
So,
about broccoli?
was I subtle?
That was your big girl voice. Oh, too
Yeah.
funny.
So there's that. And so there's the Neptune factor in all this. And
Mhm.
now getting back to Venus and Mars, notice that we've got a mighty old grand trine here with Venus, Mars, and Saturn, who is retrograde in Aquarius.
Okay, so
That
Venus is, her little tick mark is here, even though her glyph is here, just because of all the real estate going on up there. And then
so
Mars is
here's
here,
yeah,
and here is Saturn. Okay.
Saturn. So there's Venus. In the end stars of Virgo being like, after all of my journey through Virgo, do you now value yourself enough
Mhm.
to do what it takes to reclaim your sovereignty?
Mhm.
There's Mars over there in Gemini saying, all right, let's find solutions to these problems that we've identified. And then here's Saturn down here in Aquarius, frankly, identifying the problems. Like, okay, is any of this what we really want to take forward into into the foundation of the new future?
Yeah. And he's still retrograde, so there's time to really think about it before you build the foundation of what you need when he goes forward into the intuitive stars of Pisces,
Mhm.
right? He's giving us time to do that. And to do that connecting to the collective, it's time to change the whole system
Yes.
for the
Yes.
betterment of humanity.
of the humanity, Aquarius, right?
Mhm.
This is, and there's a bit of an as above, so below thing with Saturn in Aquarius, right? That as we're changing things sort of for ourselves on a foundational level, we're also changing things for the collective
Mhm.
for the better.
And who was the traditional lord of the Aquarian stars? That would be Saturn. So he's really taking the time here to say, hey y'all, you're gonna build these long-term foundations. Saturn is not a quick dude. Saturn is like, one step in front of the other, but I want to go. No, 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 no. One step, no, no, stop. And he's really giving us, by going retrograde back into his modern, I mean, a traditional dispositor stars, he's giving us that chance to do that as a humanity.
That's right. That we're able to stress test these systems
Mm-hmm.
that we're still wanting to hang on to, right? That we're still wanting to bring forward, and we're going to stress test them.
Mm-hmm.
Are they going to stand the test? Can gorillas swing from it? Can elephants stand on it? Can anything, if we really put this system under stress, how is it going to hold?
Well, and can the humans do this in a way that has integrity and is, again, for the greater good of all and not, well, and
Integrity and altruism, I think, is the word.
yes, there you go.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you. And I think it's also a way for us to go back and look at, and I say back purposefully, look at how we do this as a community. And I've preached on that soapbox a few times. But again, if I can connect to the holistic health people in my immediate community to build that trust, to build that rapport, to build that foundation in my community, in a way that we can support one another, then maybe we don't have to continue to answer to the allopathic choices as our only refuge,
Right.
right?
We
Go talk to
yeah.
that energy healer. Go talk to that naturopath. Go talk to that acupuncturist. Maybe you've never explored it before. Just have a conversation.
Or again, we can use experts because there's nothing wrong with consulting experts, but we can use experts as people who guide us, not people who
Yes.
make decisions for us.
Thank you. Thank you. And that Mercury in Virgo will help us with that discernment process,
Mhm.
right? And I know he's combust there being behind the sun, but I think if we take and look, as the sun looks back, if you will, it kind of shines the light a little bit on it. Even though he's back there, it's kind of giving an opportunity to have a little fire in that discernment too, right? I got to
Yes,
go through the flames to come to the conclusion that this is the best answer for me, and I don't care what 17,000 other people say,
that's right. That's
you know?
well, and there's also the for those of us who consider ourselves experts in something,
Hmm.
are we one of those people who expects to be listened to, or are we there just to offer advice? And because that's going to be a two-way street, right? So for people to be able to treat doctors as guides and advice givers, doctors have to be willing to be not God at the same time.
Yeah. This goes to, I wrote a blog once called Guide versus Rescue. And that's exactly it. It's like if I see a client struggling with something, am I going to be going to my ascending Virgo wanting to fix it all? Or do I step back and say, you're the expert of you. I have
Yeah.
some languaging skills or I have some tools in my toolbox that I can guide you with, but it's up to you to make the choice if that is the tool that you need.
Mhm.
I merely just give you the information.
Right.
So trust that it's really goes back to trusting that intuition. I really believe that if your first instinct is no, or your first instinct is I want to lean into this, yeah, tell me more. Trust that.
Mhm.
Trust that. You know.
And explore it.
Well, yeah, Mars and Gemini.
Yeah.
Be
Trust that and
proactive.
explore it. Again, you may find that your initial reaction was based on a fear that doesn't have relevance. You may find that your initial reaction was entirely warranted because every other opinion you get from then on says, "What do you mean you don't have cancer?" You know,
Right.
so yes.
And Pluto, being in retrograde, going back into the last few degrees of Sagittarius, This gives us an opportunity to look at an evolutionary transformation in our beliefs. Do
Yes.
we believe that this system is the only answer?
Yes. Yes. And what are again, Pluto speaks to power. So what are our beliefs about power?
Power. Yep.
And who has the power? And who has the power over you? Like, how powerful is a doctor really?
Well,
How much power do we give away to authorities? We're still at the cusp of Capricorn here. So there's that authority question in it. And
yep.
again, Lilith, right? Lilith is going to insist that we look at who's an authority over me, because her answer is always nobody is an authority over me, absolutely nobody. But there are times when, we do acknowledge that somebody else knows something more about something than I do. Does that make them an authority over me? Or does it just make them have a body of knowledge that I don't?
And this goes to two things before I forget. One, I'm going to pray on your Lilith expertise about Lilith asteroid being in the stories of Scorpio about power. But before we get to that, there's no mistake because the cosmos never lies about Venus getting ready to go into Libra. It's again, what do you value in that balance in the relationship between you and those that you consult with in terms of your own personal well-being? However you look at mind, body, spirit, I don't care. Whether it's your spiritual advisor, your physician, your, mental health counselor, it doesn't matter. Is there a partnership and a collaborative balance in that relationship so that
Mhm.
you can be on the path that is best for you, right?
Yep.
So anyway, so tell me, Lilith asteroid in the power stars of Scorpio.
Yes, Lilith asteroid in the power stars of Scorpio. So much fun. So she is making sextile aspects to is it to sextile? Yeah.
Clear these. Okay.
Sextile over to the new
The
moon, right?
eclipse. Yeah.
Yeah, she's connected to that eclipse. Lilith asteroid has a little bit different flavor to Lilith black moon in that the asteroid is a physical body.
Right.
So in general, she speaks to action that you take to move out of situation that, is not working for you. Right.
Right.
She always knows what isn't working for you. And asteroids kind of tends to show where the movement needs to be. Like, move freaking out of there. In Scorpio,
Mm-hmm.
connect and conjunct Antares, which is awesome. I just love this. She's feisty. We're just gonna say she's feisty. That when we identify something that isn't working for us, we are not probably going to hesitate, right? We're just gonna, nope, this is not working. I am not doing this.
And what is Antares known as?
Antares, the opposite of Aries, the anti-Aries. Yep.
Heart
So
of the
it's
Scorpion?
the heart of the scorpion. Yes. So thank you. So we know in our heart we have the courage to stand up. Antares, the heart of the scorpion, has the courage to stand against the god of war. Right? That's the polarization of those things.
Uh-huh.
So there's a lot of courage to do what it takes to take back your sovereignty when Lilith is conjunct this star.
We also have a square to, oh, I'm sorry, I drew the wrong one. We have a square to Saturn.
Yes. No.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. Five
Yes, she
degrees
does.
approaching. Yep.
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 She's
Yep.
just she's just entering into a square with Saturn. So yeah, there's going to be a lot of insight about what specific action you need to take and the courage to take it.
Yeah. Yeah.
For
And if you've
sure.
ever seen, fortunately, even though I live in Arizona, I've not had the opportunity to see a scorpion in action. Please, I don't want to. But they raise up before they're ready to sting.
Yeah.
So it's that standing back, and are you going to sting, or are you going to take the action in a way where you don't sting, but you use your own power in an integral way, right? You don't want to sting, you jerk, you told me this is what I should do. It's more like, no, wait a minute. Scorpio also asks us to uncover our own personal hidden powers in a way
Yes.
where we go deep down the stuff, go back to Neptune. I don't want to look at that. I don't want to look at that. No, 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 no. I don't want to look at that. I'm timid. I never speak up. I don't want to look. No. Why don't you speak up? What are you afraid of? What is it that you have to look at in
Right.
order to regain that Lilith power?
Exactly. So in trine to the North Node, it's another lovely thing too that like, all right, what am I afraid of moving forward? There's
Mhm.
if sometimes the North Node can be so scary because it is sort of the sum total of all of our fears.
Right.
And
Here's that trying.
yeah, exactly. And Scorpio, the stars of Scorpio, especially Antares, with Lilith there, is going to be like, this is nothing to be scared of. This is nothing to be scared of.
Hmm.
I'm going to come at this. They're not scared to find to
And
again to stand against the god of war. I'm not afraid, and it's that fearless courage, but also a controlled response. You know,
yes.
the the scorpion makes a surgical strike
Oh yeah.
or
Precision.
and gives you a warning.
Hmm.
It's just like, all right, no, you've pushed me against my limits. So Scorpios usually have very strong boundaries, which is another really great thing that Lilith wants, that I have sovereignty and I need strong boundaries and I need the ability to defend those boundaries and um I need just complete sovereignty to do it. So
And I think the key on that is, again, going back to, how do you use the energy potential? Are you establishing those boundaries out of fear of betrayal of your trust and vulnerability? Or are you establishing those boundaries so that you can engage in deeper connections to people, but you do it from your own personal power, not out
mhm,
of fear? The solution oriented thing, not the reactive, right? And you got to face where those vulnerabilities may lie and work through those. Use your potential of energy in your personal chart to work through that, and then stand in that power with an authenticity that's
yeah,
yours, right? And I think that's huge. I think, and that goes back to trusting your intuition,
mhm.
you know?
Exactly, Julie. So well said. And so that's how we get these stars. This eclipse, again, is the closing of a major cycle and the starting of another. So it's almost like a birth chart, right?
Yes.
We can use this as the moment of defining energy for a long next cycle,
Hmm.
which is going to be important, right? So there's this moment is birthed in this with activated Lilith in both ways and a combust Mercury and Venus still in Virgo. And that's going to be important because shortly Venus and Mercury are going to be fully in the signs that they're said to rule right now.
Hmm.
Right. So I think that it's going to be tricky. It's going to be tricky feeling when Mercury comes fully separate from the sun into Virgo and Venus is fully in Libra. Neither one of them is at their best in those signs, even though they're said to rule them. And so when we have that energy sort of challenging what's going on in the collective, remembering that this cycle started here
Yes.
is
Yes.
going to be important from a place of strongly supported personal empowerment.
And I think where you were talking about the birth of a new cycle, new moon, birth of a new cycle for the collective, because this is a transit. So this is what we are experiencing as a collective.
Yep.
But to have a birth, you have to have a death. And the death is because of the South Node. We're letting go of things. Let die what no longer thrives, right?
Yep.
Pull the weeds out of the garden. Get rid of the dead leaves. Do all of those things. There's no, you know, coincidence that in the northern hemisphere this goes into the season of fall. Get the rake out and clean up those dead leaves because you want the ground to be fertile for that new birth of growth, right? And that south node allows for us to really reflect on, as a collective, what can we let go that no longer serves us in the stars of Virgo, like we've been saying, and move into the energy of what we prefer with that new moon energy. And this
Yes.
is a 6-month cycle. Eclipses tend to be 6-month cycles. So set your intentions now. And I think to personalize this, what would really be good is a couple of possibilities. One, look at your natal moon. We've talked a lot about how we use natal moon energy to really understand what our personal needs are in terms of using this energy of the new moon, collective new moon. Also look at what's going on in your chart with Virgo. What do you have in the stars of Virgo? Or perhaps the 6th house, which is connected to Virgo. Do you have energies there that are challenging? Do you have energies there that have become stagnant? Do you have energies there that are beautiful and robust that you can really bloom into? A lot of people I know have the nodal axis in Pisces Virgo too. This is a calling for you to really step into your
A lot
evolutionary
of
journey.
a lot of people are. I mean, Virgo is a great big sign. Virgo and Pisces are both great big signs. So the chances that somebody's got something in both of those is high.
Yeah,
And a lot of people our age, like you say, are having, and I am having a total nodal return. The
right,
nodes are on my nodes right now.
right.
Yeah. And um yeah, so people in their mid 50s to mid 60s, early 50s, somewhere around how old we are.
Yeah.
Yeah, people born in the Jurassic period like me will be
Oh, my friend.
have,
Oh, my
probably a
friend.
stellium in Virgo. They have a lot of things going on in
Right,
Virgo.
right.
So I would be well aware of what you've got going on in Virgo. I think almost more than where your moon is. What's
Right
happening in
now,
honestly, that's my sense is just
I
what's
would agree.
happening in your Virgo right now because Virgo is being transformed. And so if we say something like an entire sign, if we are actively transforming the entire sign of Virgo, Julie, what does that say to you? What are we doing?
You- You're going to have to repeat that because our favorite little friend, Michael Hardigan, just joined us live. Shout out to Michael, One Sky Astrology or OneSkyAstro.com. I know he's in the process of shifting some of his URL stuff. Welcome, friend. Thank you, thank you. And we also have Look Up Astrology. In fact, this person said, I have a lot of Virgo, a lot in Virgo. I have North Node, Uranus, Pluto, Mercury, Mars. Holy mamma mia.
Nice.
11th and 12th house ascending. And Michael says, howdy back. Hello, hello. Uh,
Hello.
oh, and Jen Bazell. Hello, hello.
Hey,
Where's
Jen.
the party going? Jen says, nothing in my Virgo except my vertex at 42 degrees. So ask your question again about Virgo, and then we'll go back to what Look Up Astrology says.
So, okay. Yes. I'm saying that it seems to me that we're like transforming the entire sign of Virgo,
Oh, yeah. And
right?
how is it that we are doing that? What was one of the
How
ways?
is it that we are doing? Yes, exactly. And this is something it was uncanny how there were several of us that began having this conversation not long ago about does anybody feel like Mercury as the ruler of Virgo is just wrong, that Mercury and Venus should change their traditional rulerships? And that's how it started. And then it, led into discussions about with what's wrong with Mercury and Virgo and what's wrong with Venus and Libra. And so, yes, and then tying that to the whole sort of seeing this underlying current of the goddess energy rising through the chart, Uranus on Algol.
Mhm.
Um, I had seen Lilith being just key connected to so much of the important transits that were going on for like the last year and a half.
Mhm.
So, Lilith had been making your presence known in the charts. Algol is making your presence known in the charts. And now here we are with this major eclipse happening in Virgo. You see what I mean?
Yeah, exactly. Boy, we've got more people joining our party. Hello, hello. Kate Hornblow just joined us.
I take
Um,
Kate.
so let's go back, and I want to touch back on what we were saying about the whole Mercury, Venus, Virgo, Libra. Now, these are things we're exploring, and
Yes.
I personally don't profess to say what we're saying is the end all be all. We're just exploring the concept of how does it feel? How does it energetically feel to shift the two dispositors around? And what does that look like to you? So again, intuition. Go to that intuitive feel. What is that? How do you sense that? But let's go back to look up astrology and I love your handle, look up astrology. Yes, please. Okay, North Node, Uranus, Pluto, Mercury, Mars, 11th and 12th house. Good
North
Lord.
Node, Uranus, Mercury, Pluto, Mars.
Yes, 11th and 12th house. Oh,
Okay.
and ascending. Of course, well, yeah, ascending, 11, 12.
Okay. So to me, that speaks of that this is just something that's developing throughout your life, that you are going to be transforming your relationship to the divine feminine as your life goes on. It's coming through you more and more and more all the time. Um, Especially Uranus there. Uranus in Virgo is highly, highly transformative
Mhm.
in that case because he's Mr. I want it to be different than it is wherever I am.
Well, lighting the fire, right?
Right. Right, right,
And
right.
and depending on where your North Node is in Virgo, because again, big constellation, you're potentially on a half nodal return with the South Node there, or
Yeah.
at least potentially in the neighborhood. So this is a real connecting point to what is the collective letting go with that South Node, and what can I harness to go into my evolutionary path? And it's going to be an alchemical conversation back and forth. I personally don't believe the nodal path is a one-directional path. I think it's an infinite path. You pull out of the South Node quiver, of arrows back there, and you target for the North Node, but I still need what's back there. I have to keep going back to understand how to move forward in that journey. So it's an infinite loop back and forth. So yeah, and ascending. I relate. I'm a Virgo ascending too. I mean, so
Mhm.
this is a question like for those of us and look up astrology. Let me know if this resonates with you. Is the idea that those of us with ascending Virgos, our personalities and orient toward I got to constantly fix it. I got to constantly make it perfect. I get stymied by making decisions because I've got to have exactly what I need for it to be the perfect decision. Maybe this is something that I can let go of in my own personality and just learn that when is enough good enough,
Mhm.
right? And
Mhm.
look to my community to help me see that. I can still be my own expert, but sometimes I get in my own way. So that's another way to look at it.
Mhm.
Okay, so look up astrology said already did the return. So if you're open to it, look up, go ahead and put it in the chat. How did you experience that return? What did you notice that was maybe prolific for you in terms of moving into the energy you're supposed to understand in the Virgo stars in this evolutionary path? What is it that maybe resonated with you? You're probably coming up on a Mercury return. Um, again, stuck in the details. I feel you, my friend. I feel you. Yeah, stuck in the details. And so
I
again,
also wonder how closely conjunct is your Uranus to your Mercury in Virgo?
okay, yeah, look up if you want to pop that in the chat. Go for it. Um, and then in the meantime, Kate says, my moon is in Virgo. I'm loving this transformation. Mercury ruler is just wrong. It's interesting. It really is interesting. Lookup says, I just went into a lot with hibernation and being planted mode.
Okay. Okay, what house is this in for you?
Either 11th or 12th.
Oh, okay, the 12th. Yeah.
Yeah.
That would be, yeah, that 12th house, that wanting to go within, that
Well, and
wanting
then
to go within and seek the spiritual benefit from all of this going on. So yeah, so this is happening in your 12th house of spirituality. And again, I see it as things that develop over time, but in general, it comes back as the house of connecting to that greater all, to the higher self, to
yes.
the spiritual alchemy. that happens. So you're sort of alchemizing. For instance, you've got North Node there, where South Node is here.
The
Yeah.
comment too is Uranus is 12th and Mercury is 11th, so it's a cusp straddle.
Ah, interesting. Okay.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
And
Mercury is
Uranus
12
being
and
the modern ruler of Aquarius, you know, and Mercury being the
of that
modern,
11th house. Yeah.
yeah, so they're kind of, yeah, it's interesting. Very interesting.
So I would say that you're using sort of that this 12th house time to kind of go back and revisit, like Julie said, so you're on this path of that figure eight
Yes,
with the nodal axis. You're going back into the south node and being like, all right, well, what did I get from the south node on this last trip? And what do I want to bring forward again? It's that's kind of how it feels to me. This is a real waypoint for you in that evolving the spiritual self that's heavy in Virgo.
and one more little tidbit, Mars next to Mercury. So I said, oh, is your natal Mars squared the transiting Mars then? Again, depending on where it is in the chart.
Okay.
So, yeah, this is all about discernment. When you use the collective energy of the action of Mars trying to get all the details in Gemini or interacting with each other to kind of figure out what details are important for this beautiful Virgo new energy, are you able to discern what's important to you?
Mhm.
You know, the Virgo is asking for you to take action to discern it. Don't just collect all the information. And I got to comment back astrology with the kind of funny emoji like, oh my God. But, you know, again,
Astrology.
this goes back to the energy potential. You know, we can look at some of these things in the chart and go, ooh, but if we go, okay, ooh, all right, now how do we work with this? So again, a Mars square Mars, this person is just going with the flow. Beautiful, beautiful.
Yeah, going and so you'll have your release point will be that opposition of Pisces over there, right?
Yes.
What have you got going on in Pisces in your sixth house?
Yeah, fifth or sixth, depending. Yeah, yeah. So you can pop that in the chat. Look up if you
Yeah, if you wouldn't mind, what have you got going on over there in your sixth, fifth,
well,
sixth?
and Uranus having such a powerful energy for lookup. You know, we've also got, like you mentioned, Uranus retrograde, Uncle Dave, as Maria so affectionately calls Uranus, hanging out with the head of Medusa. It's like, are you really being authentically you? Are you chopping off your head for the sake of your authenticity?
Yeah.
You know, do you value yourself as you authentically are, Taurus? Or are you letting others chop off your head for the sake of their own benefit,
Right.
right? So that, you know, these are some different ways to look at these energies that might be a bit of a challenge. But again, moving into the solution of being in flow, as you said, look up, I'm just going with the flow, you know?
No, and that's how, and because you've got Pisces in your sixth house there, that's exactly how you deal with that lit up Virgo
Yeah.
is okay, it's in your 12th house, so you naturally want to flow with it, but you've also got your release point opposite that in your work life. And I'm curious, are you doing astrology professionally? Do you sort of is your life's work kind of revolving around a spiritual center?
We'll see what the answer is, but currently, and this is what we love about the live chats, is this kind of interaction. So keep it.
Yeah.
Chiron and South Node, and I'm making the assumption that's the answer to the question about what's going on in your Pisces, and then I
Okay. Yep. Yep.
houses, because again, Pisces is probably straddling the fifth, sixth.
Okay.
So Chiron return potentially, either having it come up, you know, because Chiron is in Pisces. So depending on where your personal Chiron is within these vast stars of Pisces, you may be coming up on a Chiron return in the near future. Um, but yeah, I think the release point is definitely Pisces. You know, that's kind of like
Mhm.
the key to open the door to really working with these Virgoan energies. You know, as above, so below. And you were mentioning somebody else, you know, this whole idea of, you know, when things get too overwhelming in Pisces, step into Virgo. When things get too overwhelming in Virgo, step into Pisces.
Yeah.
Okay, the answer for lookup to your question. I'm a yoga teacher, astrology is a transition, and I'm doing a live workshop at the yoga studio. Well, of course you are.
Yes. Okay. Yep. Perfect.
Well, of course you are.
Perfect, perfect, perfect. Yeah.
And you know what? And this is beautiful because this marries to the title of our podcast, Holistic Health Happy Hour. You are using a holistic health approach of yoga to do the work that supports your flow and bringing it to others. A
And
live
it,
workshop.
yeah, and as a healing modality for yourself and others. Chiron in the sixth house.
Yes,
Yep,
yes,
you're working in a healing capacity, um,
yes. And the answer to
from a spiritual angle to, physically benefit your spiritual growth. Ugh, sorry. Gub,
no,
gub, 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 gub.
this is beautiful. But again, yoga is a beautiful example of Pisces Virgo. You
Right? Isn't, yeah.
with that spiritual flow, depending on how you use the yogic flow of prana to connect to that spiritual guide within you. And the answer too is an astrology workshop with a friend, and I'm paid as a junior astrologer online. Beautiful.
Nice.
That's spectacular. Spectacular.
Should be
And
reading for us right now.
well, and yeah, exactly. And Maria and I do the same thing in the work that we do. I use the root cause therapy approach with the stars of astrology to connect to your physical, mind, emotional, well-being. And we put these two together. That's very Virgo Pisces. Maria, your sacred writing, how we can physically bring this intuitive guidance into our lives for the betterment of ourselves, and using the astrology like you did for me with the eighth house. It's beautiful. I mean, yeah, it's a pitch, but it's not. It's just another example of how we bring this
Yeah.
nodal collective path together. We are seeing more and more and more of us moving into using the Pisces energy to our collective well-being of Virgo, right?
Exactly. And understanding and really living the fact that our spiritual well-being is connected to our physical well-being,
Yes,
right? This is why things like sacred writing, getting something from the spirit world into physical manifestation is a
yes.
thing, because that's sort of what you want to do, right? You want your holistic wellness to be a thing that is a lived experience for you, not just a concept that's cool and up in Pisces.
Preach, sister, preach.
Did I actually say that well? God, I feel like that's the first thing I've said well this entire time.
Well, and Michael said
Oh,
sacred science, Pisces, Virgo.
yes. Yes.
And then look up, I'm also like a forever student of all the things. I feel you, my friend. I've got a sun in the late degrees, at my midheaven,
That's Virgo rising. Yeah, right
Gemini,
there.
and a Virgo
Yeah.
rising. So, if you and I were in the same place together, we'd probably have 7,000 books and never shut us up.
A forever student of all the things is, yes.
It's awesome.
Wilma, my friend, feel free to chime in with any of this because
Oh, I wish you could be live with us. We
I
had a conversation.
know.
Our dear friend Michael, aka Uma Stellar in Radical Astrology, um, we had a conversation because apparently the Mars in Gemini really wasn't helping us a lot in understanding sorrow cycles. And it was this whole idea.
Oh,
We know conceptually what it's all about, but we were trying to figure out the math. And I
Julie is being generous. This was me. Sorrow cycle has broken my brain. I don't get it. I don't get it. And I'm like, I said literally, if Uma can explain this to me in a way that my brain can understand, I will bet you $5. You can't do it. Can't do it.
well, we were trying to figure out. He says he's on a tablet. Typing is awkward. We were trying to figure out. Well, I was looking at Bernadette Brady's book, and we were trying to figure out how do you pick where it all starts, and then how do you understand it all. It broke our brains.
It did. No, it broke my brain. Julie's brain works just fine. She is being generous right now.
Oh my gosh, I
But
don't know. It's been crazy. And of course, understanding, I mean, generally we understand that these are cycles over a long period of time. But the question is, where, okay, his answer is, okay, Saros, I need a video. Yes, you do.
Yes.
Yes, you do. And we would embrace it wholeheartedly.
Yes. Yes. So, and I suppose a reason why that lit into my consciousness right now is that I wonder if this particular lunar eclipse, of course, it's not a complete one, but wouldn't it be cool if this were not just this were the end of a cycle, like a
Yes,
longer cycle? That how does this fit into those longer Saros cycles of
right.
things? Because I feel like even though this isn't an exact, a total eclipse, just the players in this make it so profound that I can't help but feel this is a super special, super duper special, uber nifty one that is going to be remembered. Those are technical terms. That's how they talk about it in really smart people places.
Well, this is why we're here.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
So anyway, that's why that
In
this feels big.
the rudimentary explanation, and I'm saying myself rudimentary here. Sorrow cycles have to do with there are cycles that kind of define the flavor of the eclipse. And there's a whole bunch of math involved and there's a whole bunch of numbers involved. So we're not going to do the Mars and Gemini thing and go down that road right now. But the gist of it is that if you look at the energy of this cycle of eclipse, there's a blueprint that defines it, if you will. And that's where I stop. Because the blueprint, this is where we got lost in the weeds when
That
we
and then yeah, and then so there's a blueprint that defined that over time certain eclipses that happen under certain conditions repeat that blueprint that
right.
fit into that energetic thing. And we're talking like hundreds of years,
Oh,
at a time, over and over and over again. Um, but it's just the actual, like I can get the concept of it, but the actual how it works, I, there's no parking place in here for that. I haven't gotten it. I don't get it.
well, our dear friend Michael says he will make a video.
I love you.
Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. And we will be happy to push it all out there because we really did want to understand again, broadly understanding that there's a cycle and there's a flavor and every so many years and things happen, right? Every 18
Yeah.
years, 90 years, every 650 years, there was a whole bunch of years and numbers. But the question was, I mean, I looked at the chart and I go, okay, I understand that this is the one that's relative to this cycle because the eclipse is, well, in constellation, it's Virgo. So it's looking at that chart of information, but the rest of it was like weeds, total weeds. And we
Right.
could, I mean, we could not part the weeds to get to the fruit. I mean, it really was, because I just, Bernadette is an incredible mind, no question. Those of us who have used her work, there's no doubt, and I would not even profess to come even close to her stratosphere. But by the same token, the way that that section was described, the Virgo ascending couldn't discern what was going on there. So,
I mean, and if Julie don't get it, there's no hope for any of us, really. So
I'm the numbers person. She's the intuitive one. It's like, what do you feel should be the answer? What do you intuit from this?
that's why I say it's like I get it on a conceptual level. I get it, but in order to say exactly how it's calculated and why this cycle happens, I don't know. I do not understand the astrophysics behind it. I understand Baktunes. I understand. I like to think that I have a brain that has an IQ that can grok this, but it just has never been presented to me in a way that lands in a parking lot in here. So I'm like, all right, help. So Uma's going to make a video.
Yes.
Yay. Thank you for saving us from ourselves here. We couldn't.
Well,
And,
and
and
explaining it in terms where you literally connect the dots, right?
yeah,
It's like we've got the concept, we know generally speaking, this is the flavor and the energy of this cycle, but connect the dots. How did the cycle,
Right.
not just I mean, I understand the cycle in terms of we looked at the North Pole, we looked at the South Pole, and then there were these things that happened in between. I get that conceptually.
But
How
why?
did they determine that this is the one that matches now?
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So, and then the other question I ask, this goes to a South Node type question. Is it relevant and is it still important?
Is what, a sorrow cycle or?
No, understanding and knowing the Saros cycle. I feel like it must be because it goes back to like a
That's,
billion, thousand billion years ago.
yeah.
At the same time, do we still need to know that? I'm just offering that as a question to contemplate, Mars Gemini. Thank you. I don't know. I don't know.
Well, no, Lord help you if you light up my Mercury in Sagittarius, because here we go. Okay.
I
Here
have
we
South
go.
Node in Sag, so
It, yep. So here's Mercury and Sagittarius in my midheaven. Um, is it important? Yes. I mean, because we want to understand, if we're going to be evolutionary astrologers, then we have to understand evolution, right? And so if these processes speak to things that have been alchemizing at set points for thousands of years in our evolution, then yes, understanding that cycle is also going to help us predict, or predict might be the wrong word, understand where,
anticipate.
anticipate
Mhm.
the where we're going things, and therefore help us make decisions. Now, and again, philosophically, there's this sort of chicken and egg thing going on with free will and predetermined
Destiny.
cycles, but it can help us choose to take actions that will better suit where the energies are heading,
And
right?
that Saturn retrograde in Aquarius begs the question, what of that information is going to take us into the future?
Yes.
Which structures of that sorrow cycle is going to take us into the future? What do we need from that information
Mhm.
to go into the future? And maybe we create a new one, like, Mercury, Libra, Venus, Virgo, or an old one. I still think it's an old one. I don't think it's a new one, but that's just my side note.
I tend to agree with you. I think if we somehow got magical access to the Vatican Library, or if we could dredge up the Library of Alexandria, we would probably find that at some point
It was that way.
the stars of the stars of the section of the sky that is now called Libra were more associated with Mercury than they were with Venus, and vice versa, that Venus was put in Libra for a reason
Right.
by somebody.
And I know that I've seen it on, I don't know, a variety of tropical things where they align the dispositors to each of the constellations, and there's like a mathematical precision to it, right?
Mhm.
It collapses down. But, and I go back to astrology, while it does have some mathematical precision in terms of angles and things like that, the constellations are not 100% perfect 30-degree, we're going back to the
Yeah.
fluid.
I mean, organic reality is not, in fact,
Always. Right,
geometrically perfect.
right,
Yeah.
right.
It may be on a quantum level, but organic reality is not all right angles and equilateral triangles and perfectly elegant math.
And you know what? Maybe I'm a little slow to the party, but is this not a beautiful remarrying of the divine feminine, divine masculine energy? The divine masculine energy is the square, the trine, the angle, all of that sort of stuff, the action. And the divine feminine is connecting to the
The
intention
mutation.
of the stars
Yeah.
in that fluidity as they appear,
Yeah.
you know.
Yes. Yes. Is that which sort of results in what we would call a mutation.
And the boundaries, some of us in the group have gotten into this whole thing about IAU versus midpoint, and I'm not going to belabor that here, but it goes to the whole conversation of we put these boundaries around our constellation so we can have this conversation from a point of understanding, a language, but the boundaries are fluid too, which is why Pluto hanging out in the cusp of Capricorn Sagittarius isn't exclusively this or exclusively that. There's a blending of those energies because of the nature of where Pluto is and other cusp constellational experiences. Not Libra, Venus on the cusp of Virgo going into Libra. It's not all Virgo in energy right now just because she's in 48 degrees Virgo on the new moon day. She's bringing in some of the whiff of Libra already. She's starting to look forward into Libra because, again, it's not like somebody drew a line in the sky and said, that's where you are, energy, stay on that side. It's very fluid. And so I think this is the remarrying of the divine masculine, the divine feminine in the astrological approach to life.
I agree.
Well, alrighty then. I think we've solved
that. Moving on. Yep.
So again, our disclaimers, we are not healthcare professionals other than the credentials we already carry with us, but anything that you choose to explore in terms of your personal health, a la Virgo, please consult with people that you ascribe to in terms of your advisors for your health, whether it be holistic, allopathic, naturopathic, whatever it works for you. It's your choice, your discernment, and we hold no liability for that. So just putting that little disclaimer out there. In the meantime, Maria, again, tell everybody what you do and how we can find you.
Venus-13.com for just a general overview of other esoteric offerings I have. You can find me daily on Radical Astrology and Cosmic Reflections, and you can become a patron at Maria's Daily Charts on Patreon.
Yes, yes. And Radical Astrology and Cosmic Reflections is on Facebook for those who may not know. And I can't say highly enough, especially if you don't have the software to see what's going on in the sky daily. Maria brings a beautiful story every day so you can really understand. And then if you know your chart, you can kind of do a little bit of translation there. So, and we're always happy to connect with you as astrology clients too. So please don't hesitate to reach out to us. And I'm at yourbesthopeswc.com, Your Best Hopes Wellness Coaching. So please feel free to reach out, direct message us, whatever, however it ascribes to you. So anyway, thank you for joining us. We really appreciate it. Thank you to the live folks, and thank you to the folks that catch us on replay. This will be available on my YouTube channel. We'll also have it available on Radical Astrology and Cosmic Reflections for those of you that wish to join us on the replay. So thank you. And we will sign off right now. So we'll stop that recording. And then we will leave YouTube, maybe. Uh-oh. My mouse just died. There we go.